All right. So obviously your work, Dr. Morad, has been, instrumental in, really understanding the role of circadian clocks. So can you, dive deep and really explain to our listeners how the biological clock really affects our sleep waking patterns and how is it really affecting our overall health in today's age?
Well, the circadian rhythms are the patterns in the body which almost everything in the body varies according to the time of day, the time you sleep, the time your hormones go up and down, the body temperature goes up and down. All those are circadian rhythms are synchronized by a clock in the brain. It's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. A little cluster of nerve cells in the hypothalamus in one of the old parts of the brain connected by a pathway from the eyes. So it's light falling on the eyes, going to that clock that tells the body the time of day. Now, in the old days, when we had bright sunlight and daylight, the signal was very strong. It was daytime clearly with all the bright light coming in. And at night, we didn't have any electric lights. So therefore, it was really people slept in the dark and the evenings were very dimly lit with maybe candles or wood fires. And with that signal, we were really very much in sync with the world. We were in sync with Mother Nature, in sync with the Earth's rotation. But now we're using electric lights. We're really totally disrupting that. We spend much more time indoors, over 90% of our time. We spend a lot more time with electric lights in the evening. And it's not just electric lights, of course, it's from computer screens, from our mobile devices, everything is emitting. Now, it turns out that sleep and wake are controlled by this. So therefore, it's much easier to sleep at certain times, much harder to sleep at others. You naturally start feeling sleepy at a certain time in the evening. You wake up naturally in the mornings. That's all controlled by internal clocks in our body. When they get out of sync with each other, they get out of step with the world. That leads to a whole host of sleep disorders. People are unable to sleep, they're much more fatigued, but also far more fundamental effects. Our immune system goes awry. The way our body suppresses cancer cells is perturbed. And all that we now know is related to the circadian clock in the brain, related to how it's synchronizing the key signal hormone, it's called melatonin, which comes from the pineal gland. And melatonin coursing through our bodies and reaching all the cells in our bodies, the presence of melatonin tells our body that it's dark outside, the world is dark. When we have electric lights in our eyes, or we're using a bright light from a computer screen, then in fact what's happening is you're suppressing the melatonin. No longer are the cells of the body told that it's resting time, it's nighttime. And so metabolism doesn't occur correctly. And as a result, people get worse diabetic type reactions. Their glucose levels are higher, their insulin is less effective, it's so-called insulin resistance,
Mhm.
more risk of heart attacks and other disorders. So it's a huge thing when we get out of whack. The key to that, and this is only relatively recently, is that we've realized that it's not all light that's causing the problem, but it's actually a fairly narrow band of blue wavelengths of light. Now, people look at light. The other day, I was, it was snowing here in Boston. It's perfect white, the snow on the ground. People look at that and think that's white. But in fact, if you use a spectrophotometer, something that actually detects what light is coming out, all the wavelengths of light, you can see this perfect pattern of it's got violet in it, blue, it's got greens, it's got oranges and reds, all blended together perfectly to form white. So you only really realize that when you see a rainbow in the sky. That's, what's happening is sunlight is being refracted through the raindrops, split apart, the wavelengths are split apart of different colors, and you can see all the colors. Or you've got a crystal vase in a house and the sunlight hits it and you get this beautiful pattern on the wall.
Mhm.
That's what light is made of. It's made of those wavelengths. And what turns out, it's not what you see that matters, it's what's in those wavelengths that matters. So, in fact, it's the blue part, the blue wavelengths within that mix, within that rainbow, within that crystal spectrum on the walls, that is causing the problem at night, but also the benefit during the day. So, blue, and this is very important, blue is neither good nor bad. Blue light you want to see as much of as you can during the daytime hours and as little of as you can during the nighttime hours.
Hmm.
Now, it didn't used to be a problem with candles and with wood fires because they emit very little blue, less than 1% blue. It's a big problem with modern LED lighting, which can be 15, 20%, sometimes 25% blue content, very rich in blue. And that's what's causing a whole host of health disorders. In fact, I just led a consensus study of almost 250 leading scientists that came out with the conclusion that the LED lights that are being sold today should carry a warning label, may be harmful if used at night, just to give you a sense of the issue. Anyway, so that's the issue, and that's one of the ones I think people need to become aware of: how to choose the lights you should be using during the day, and the lights you should be using in the night. No longer can we just switch on the light switch and think everything's okay. I can see. That's all that matters.
Hmm.
It's much more. It's actually, there's far more to light than what you see. It's the health giving properties or the health harming properties of light that are something much more important.
Yeah, definitely. So the parts in the wavelength and, understanding too, blue is not good or bad. So you just want to make sure you're not consuming too much blue light at night. Is there a specific time? I know I got my blue light blockers right here. And usually I put these on probably around 7 o'clock at night, 7:30. But I don't know. Is there a specific time you should start wearing those at night if you're on your electronics or if you're watching TV? When should you utilize those?
Yeah, definitely in the evening hours, about 3 hours before bedtime is the approximate guidance.
Okay.
And make sure you also, a lot of the blue blocking classes have no benefit to them at all because they're
Yeah.
blocking the wrong blue. I don't know if you can show me the glasses that you've got. Do you
Yeah.
have them there?
Let's pull these. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think yours are actually working because they're very pretty clear,
Hmm.
right? The
Exactly.
ones that work have got a yellow-orange color to them
Hmm.
because, right, that blocks violet light,
Hmm.
and it's sold as blue blockers, but it actually doesn't do anything to protect the color blue we're looking at is a sky blue color, around 480 nanometers. Blue goes from about 400 to 500
Hmm.
nanometers on the wavelength scale. Down around 420, you're in the violet range of light, right? And between 420 450 is a range where people often their blue blockers are working down there. But up at 480, they're not working at all. So that's one take-home guide I can give you immediately. Go and get, if you want to really do good in terms of protecting yourself, make sure that you've got blue blockers that are going to stop the melatonin suppression.
Yeah.
And they're going to look fairly yellow orangey in color.
Let's definitely do your research and your intel. I know these are a cheaper pair, so really, do your research, making sure exactly that you are getting those benefits, or you're just wearing them for pointlessly. So, but I wanna transition. Obviously, your breakthrough, your discovery of how narrow band of blue wavelengths and white LED light that causes harm at night. It's really interesting. So, can you just explain that discovery, how you came across some of the implications just within the lighting industry, and how have you taken all that research throughout your years in your company to where you're at today?
Well, basically, it became the first studies of this were recognizing that there were pigments in the eye, so-called photopigments, one called melanopsin, that is in the cells in the eye that are detecting light, whether it's light or dark. And those melanopsin photopigments are most sensitive to blue. So that was one piece of information. Then, as I say, people started working out, by shining different color lights in people's eyes, different different wavelength lights. So testing violet versus blue versus green versus orange, etc. What the relative effective was, and that sort of pointed to something in the blue range. But we needed a much more precise determination of that. So what we did was we did a study where we compared a whole lot of different LEDs, all producing exactly the same light intensity, the same brightness, all with but they had different compositions. You could make white light. One of the breakthroughs was understanding you can make white light in many different combinations of the rainbow spectrum. It's not just one. So you can make white light that's rich in violet but has no blue. You can make white light that's rich in blue but has no violet, etc. Just by mixing it, color mixing essentially, to get white light. So we compared them all, and we were able then to calculate where the precise range was. It was a fairly narrow range up in the sky blue range of light that was key. And having done that, what we did was to look at the application of it. We said, okay, let's look at the LEDs that have no blue in them, but they've got violet, but they're no blue, and see what happens if you use it in the evening or at nighttime. And what we found is we could reverse the diabetic effect. We could reverse a whole lot of the melatonin suppression effect by using lights that didn't have any blue in them. So that's the next side of it, right? So we can, first of all, define where it's most sensitive. Secondly, by building lights that don't. And of course, that now becomes the solution, because we've got lights that are maximum blue content. In other words, they're very rich in blue for daytime use. And then lights that are zero blue for nighttime use, and you need to range change between. And what's about to be released very shortly in the next month or two are lights that are going to be automatically switching between zero blue and max blue by the time of day. It will know what time, where you are, your latitude and longitude. It will be synced to the natural day-night cycle. And so now you don't have to buy more than one light bulb. You can actually have light bulbs or light fixtures that are going to automatically provide the blue you need. So that is a result of the inventions I pioneered and the patents I did. It's very exciting to see that come out now in scale. We've already done it and already proven it in about 65 different Fortune 500 companies and showed that it worked. But now it's going to be coming available for mass use, which is very exciting and I think a huge step forward.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and congratulations on that. And I think it's so crucial, and like we've already touched on just all the different side effects and the obesity and cancer and all the different things that could come across you not protecting your eyes. And I really think it's such a valuable thing to provide to society. So. But I want to dive into your inventions over the years. How was that process like? What were some of those hurdles when you were, implementing these new procedures into your company? Was there any things that you struggled with in those early days?
Oh, I think a lot of things, yes. Hindsight, it all looks much clearer than it did at the time, right? In other
Yeah.
words, we for example, when I started out in this research when I was a professor at Harvard, um, the early on I was warned that this wasn't a subject any serious scientist, any young man who wanted a serious career should be touching, because there was no known circadian clock. It was just some figment of the Earth's rotation. It was causing these rhythms in human behavior and sleep. And also, even when they did discover the circadian clock, that it was not controlled by light and dark. It was some form of social interaction between people. And so we had to overcome a lot of those basic wrong ideas to start with. And so, yes, we did discover. And the reason, just to drive down a little bit, how we're able to describe it, how we're able to define the circadian clock in the human brain, it had already been found in animals and rats and hamsters and so forth, was we started looking at slices of the human brain, which are libraries. And so the brain atlases, basically, where you can turn over the page and each slice the way through the brain, and you can see all the parts of the brain laid out in pictures. The key finding was realizing that the atlas was showing only every 50th slice. In other words, there were 49 slices in between that were thrown away, right? And that's why they weren't seeing in the atlas this suprachiasmatic nucleus in the human brain. And so we were able to look at all the slices and actually see this thing was there reliably in the same place as it was in monkey brains and other species. And so that was one way we were able to do that. And then to study whether the light was important, we created a special research facility. Um, this one we did in New York, where we had a facility where no windows, no clocks on the wall, no one could tell the time of day. And people lived in this for weeks or months at a time. And then we could give them light and dark cycles and actually show that it was synchronizing the circadian clock.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot of steps along the way. A lot of us, people are doubtful about things, science, but as I say, the end result is a huge impact, and the science is coming in so rapidly now supporting this. I mean, big studies of 80,000 plus people showing they die 30% faster. A group of 60-year-olds all um, studied and seeing how much had light meters in their bedrooms, see how much light they had at night. And the people who had more light in the bedroom at night had more psychiatric illness, more depression. They were dying 30% sooner of cardiac disease, of heart disease, 30% sooner of all causes. And, we're seeing lots of studies like this showing that, now people who are sleeping with the lights on at night in their bedroom, and a surprising number of people do, and maybe 30%, 40% of younger people, maybe over 50% of elderly people sleep with the lights on at night. You might say, why? Well, that's usually because of some anxiety or concern that they're going to fall over something in the bedroom if they get up in the middle of the night. But those people sleeping with the lights on had double the rates of obesity, double the rates of diabetes, double the rates of heart disease as compared to the people who slept in the dark. So the very clear take-homes here, we all need a light diet, just like our nutritional diet, and rich in blue during the day, low in blue in the evenings, and in the dark at night to ensure our health. But so few of us are doing it that way. But I think that's, can have a huge effect on people's health and longevity, how long they live.
Exactly.
So it's a very exciting findings that are coming out now.
Yeah, and it's just, look at the research, look at the data and like the findings you're talking about. And even too, for young people like me, I think that everybody out there, some of our listeners, they're in their 20s and 30s. I think it's important to start, researching, and maybe you don't wear glasses, maybe your eyes are great and you don't have any eye um, issues going on right now, but you still should be aware of, the light that you're taking in. And like you're talking about, Dr. Martin, like the certain times throughout the day, it's so important because there's a lot of people, they sit at a computer screen all day long, 10 hours a day, and then they go watch TV or they're on their phone. And it's just, it's important to really be cautious and understanding the hours, you're taking in that light. So,
So you can find much more about it in my book called The Light Doctor.
yes.
It's on Substack right now, totally online, but it's coming out in print version this year. And that really explains all this and explains what you can do, explains the science, but also the practical things you can do. And then how do you get lights into your, places that you go, your workplace, your schools? How do you get the right lights into hospitals or nursing homes? Who you have to persuade, and how do you do that is obviously part of, we've got a lot of lights to change. The 2.5 trillion lights in the world, dollars worth of lights in the world, a lot of lights to be changed. We're just at the beginning, but it really is pretty critical for health.
100%. And yeah, I'm really excited, that you took my next question right out of my mouth about your book, The Light Doctor. So we'll link at the end of this episode in our description so everybody can check that book out. But yeah, like you said, a lot of the things that we've already touched on, those key strategies are in that book. So I'm really excited for that to come out. But yeah, obviously, as a podcast host, I'm interested, in just the different intersection of, science and practicality. So, like how can individuals, really, especially individuals that work night shifts, or have irregular sleep schedules, how can they incorporate, healthy circadian lights into their daily routines? And like, what would you recommend to really optimize their performance?
Well, I think getting out every day and walking in running or whatever you want to do in daylight sunlight is really healthy and critical. And that's one of the more important things you can do, and it's really available to all of us. It's just a question of getting out there and doing it. And that is, you know, how critical it is because we know that people who do that, as I say, are much healthier, live longer, and so forth. We know that even if you can't get outside, being near a window, close to a window with a lot of bright light coming in, is much healthier than working in one of those office cubicles
Yeah.
or in a dark corner of the building. That's way healthier to do. You sleep better and so forth. So getting as much light as you can. We know that avoiding blue light in the evenings is also critical. Using zero blue light bulbs. You can find some of them right now. The standard ones on the Sora store. That's SORAA store on Amazon. That's got the zero blue lights, and more are coming out, as I say. Um, so you can find lights like that. And finally, you know, sleeping in the dark and sleeping on a regular schedule is also key. People
Hmm.
who, it doesn't quite so matter exactly how many hours you sleep. What matters more is how regularly you're going to bed. In other
Yes.
words, if you're a party guy and staying up late and all sorts of erratic hours, that actually wears you down in all sorts of ways and is not good for you in the long run. Well, you know that, but you know, for this another reason why it's not good for you. And so that's the regularity is also very important here.
Yeah. No, it's, it sounds so, practical, common sense, but so many people, still don't follow this in their everyday lives. And I've noticed it personally too. I could get 5 hours of sleep, but I could go to bed consistently at the same time for a week and I'll feel refreshed. I'll get up, I'll be good. And then there'll be times where I'll get 8 or 9 hours of sleep, but I'm not consistent with when I'm going to bed. And, I feel sluggish, brain fog. So definitely can attest to that.
Well, it's a sort of jet lag while without traveling. You know, you get jet lag without the fun of travel, and it's
Yeah.
it's,
Nobody wants that.
it's amazing too. I mean, you know, some of these studies that are now being done. We've got a psychiatric hospital. So people admitted with major depression and other psychiatric disorders
Mhm.
to this hospital. Um, and one side of the hospital, the windows are all facing east and south. So they get the morning sunlight coming in. The other side of the hospital, all the rooms are facing north and west. So they don't get any morning sunlight, right? Guess what? The patients admitted to the ones facing getting morning sunlight, the east and south facing rooms, get out of hospital cured, as it were, 50% sooner than the people in the north and west facing rooms. That tells you something. And that's with the same doctors, the same medications, the same drugs they're using, the same treatments and everything else, just because of the effect of morning sunlight. It's just huge. And so you really wonder, I mean, there's a big problem. Our are not designed for this. Modern medicine, tends to leave the lights on bright, at all hours, and doesn't really deal with the natural effects and the benefits of sunlight.
Yeah.
But it's good for our mental health, it's good for our physical health, it's good for our longevity. So really controlling the amount of light you see and when you see it, and the blue content of the light, rich blue during the day, zero blue at night, is really so essential.
Yeah. And, we're, Tampa, Florida now, and, you don't necessarily need to be laying out in the sun all day long. I don't think that's what, we're recommending, but, at least going out for a walk and just, embracing in the sunlight and getting outside, that can make a huge difference. And it could be harder, if you're, in Boston and there's snow and things like that. So I think it's so important, especially in the winter climates, if you're not, down south, to really make sure you're enough sun. So, but yeah, no, I want to transition. Your work, obviously, it's been significant impact. Understanding light and its effect on the human health. Looking ahead, what are some of your really exciting developments that you're working on, whether that's in research or really just shaping the circadian lighting industry?
Well, I think some of the things that are exciting, as I say, we put the formula into light bulbs, but now it's possible to do this in computer screens. So you have computer screens that are, have the same white backgrounds that you're used to using, but during the daytime hours are emitting blue. but during the evening hours when you're using them, and not emitting blue or very little blue. So that's going to be very exciting. And there's those now have been invented based on on our findings, and they should be coming out. In fact, I think there's a Kickstarter campaign from one of the companies is doing, which fairly soon. For that's going to be one really exciting innovation here.
Mhm.
I think we're also learning more and more about how to what makes people healthy. There's a lot of uphill battle in persuading people to do something about it.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge, quite frankly, is the energy lobby, or at least the climate lobby, that wants to have us all blue rich LEDs because they consume less electricity. But there's a big argument there that you're doing more harm than good with those lights. You've got to actually have lights that are good for human health, and all for helping reduce energy consumption, but not at the cost of poor human health with these LED lights that we get today. So we're going to see there's a big change. 99.8% of lights are these blue rich lights now, and we're just starting to see the lights coming to the market.
Mhm.
So that's a big change. It's largely an education challenge at this time.
Yeah, and I totally agree. It could be hard to get so many people on board, and I think the biggest thing is just show them the facts, show them the data, and let decide, and it speaks for itself. And when you start applying it to your everyday life, I think that will really kind of help change the narrative, and really truly educate other people. So, but yeah. So I want to kind of wrap up here. What is a final message, Dr. Morad, that you really like to leave our listeners with, just regarding the importance of healthy circadian lights, their potential to really improve their lives in a positive way. What would you like to leave with our audience?
Well, I think the bottom line message is the lights we see are as important for our health as the food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe. It's right up there with those key things. And it's the one thing we ignore. Everyone knows about it, understands, and has heard so much about healthy eating. Everyone's heard so much about contaminated water, lead pipes, or whatever. Everyone's heard about air pollution. But people really don't think about light pollution. And this is a pollution, but it's so easy to fix. If you think about chemical pollution, very hard to fix the environmental cleanups that are needed and everything else, all these forever chemicals like PFAS. But here, just change the darn light bulb. It's just that. So change your light bulbs and recognize that, light you see is as important to your health as the food you eat, the water you drink, and the air you breathe.
Exactly. And I think everybody, they want a long, healthy life, and they don't want to, have, health complications later in their life. And I think, it's just so important to really understand, the benefits, just making those small little changes, even like you said, changing a light bulb, simple as that. So, but where can I find you? Where's your website, and your new book?
Well, the my website is thelightdoctor.com,
Okay,
and
we'll put that in.
that's the easiest way to find and get access to the book and everything else. The book is on Substack right now, so if you search for Substack and the Light Doctor, you'll find it. I also have obviously the standard other links of LinkedIn and YouTube and the other sort of things as well, getting the message out. But no, I really encourage you and look for the printed book. It should be coming out fairly soon this year, and so that would be something to give to people who make decisions about the lights you have. So if you work somewhere and you don't know how to change the lights, this is a book you can use to arm yourself to make sure you're getting. When you don't control the lights yourself, you need to educate people. So, and how to educate them.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, I encourage everyone to take a look at the Light Doctor. It's written for the general audience. It's not too geeky science. This is stuff, interesting science. And so yeah, please look out for the Light Doctor.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I'm super excited to give it a read, and I think I really love all the innovations over the years throughout your career, and all the great that you've done just in your industry, and ultimately giving back and helping others. So I'm really looking forward to the accomplishments this year, and moving forward, that you're gonna have. So
Well, thank you, Alex. It's been
yeah,
good
yeah,
to
no.
talk.
Well, is there any other things, any last remarks you'd like to make? Maybe I always like to end it off, this question, like what's like one piece of advice somebody gave you, in your early years as an entrepreneur that kind of helped you to where you're at today?
Well, I think, have confidence in the ideas and, and pursue them, be persistent. Without persistence, you don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's really key. You may be wrong and may be right, but if you put things to the test, and the advantage of science is you're always learning because you're putting things to the test, and you get things wrong, but that just teaches you something as you go further and find where the right answer is.
Mhm.
So persistence is absolutely critical here. And as I say, I always, science with a purpose and science with a goal of, helping people live healthier and longer lives. It's been a great goal and very rewarding to go down this path and be able to see it come to fruition, because that's another whole thing, turning it from the science lab and getting it into practical results and actually building real products and selling them to real customers. Yeah, you've got to learn a lot of things to go from one end to the other of that pathway.
Definitely. And yeah, I think, the more consistent you can stay and the more people that you can put around you that share that same vision is so important. And I definitely, could tell you also got to be, passionate about what you're doing too. And I think, you develop a passion over time as you learn more and you get good at something. So you're clearly a display of that. So
And know how to find the best people. There are people around you who know much more than you do,
yeah.
and you got to find them. I mean, it's critical because I rely on engineers and
Hmm.
mathematicians and people good at sales and marketing. You need a whole team of people to make this all happen,
Yeah.
and recognize where your own skills are and find someone better at the things that you're not so good at.
Yeah, hire and train your soft spots or weak spots.
That's
Definitely,
right.
definitely agree. Awesome. Well, I took a bunch of notes. I'm sure our audience did too. So I encourage everybody to go back and give it a listen. I know the book is going to definitely dive into a lot of the things we talked about. So, but it was an honor to have you. I'm really looking forward to your future, and it was talking to you and meeting you.
Good. Well, thank you, Alex.
Awesome. Yeah, anytime, Dr. Martin. Well, thank you guys. This is another episode of Scaling Secrets. Till next time, take care. All right.